What's going on, everybody? It is Charlize Walker of Lisa's Business Enterprise here with another nonprofit knowledge tip. Today, hopefully, I'm going to fully empower you with knowledge and more less of a tip today. So, what I'm talking about today is how a nonprofit is not owned. There's no such thing as ownership when you're operating a nonprofit. And I'm going to tell you three firm things of why. And you know, I'm always going to go to the IRS. One thing I don't mess with is the IRS because it's facts and they make it plain and they spell it out for you plain and simple. And so, one thing you want to get involved in or get into the knowledge of, get into the mindset of is that nonprofits are not owned. And trust me, I had trouble with this in the beginning stages as well when I founded my nonprofit. I say me, mine, but it's our. So we do found it. We founded an organization and we represent. But I'll tell you this up front. Make sure you represent a legacy and why and how you're fixing a problem and providing a solution. So we just have to get into that mindset of that. But it's still going to be a great thing. Don't if you're going to let that one little piece say, "Oh, I can't own it. I don't want to do it." You probably shouldn't be in the nonprofit industry anyhow. So let's get right onto it. The first thing I would say, um, as I'm going out cultivating everything, I always say, hey, I operate a nonprofit. So one thing, and the first main thing is what the IRS say is what really counts. And that's always going to count. The IRS is going to count. It's going to be number one. If you don't believe anything I say, believe me and go to the IRS website. So the exemption requirements for a 501c3 public charity to be tax exempt, and I'm reading this word for word from their website. To be tax exempt under Section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code, an organization must be organized and operated exclusively for exempt purposes set forth in the Section 501c3, and none of its earnings may inure to any private shareholder or individual. The organization must not be organized or operated to benefit from private interests and no part of section 501c3 organization's net earnings may inure to the benefit of any private shareholder or individual. Inurement means basically making a profit because in the for-profit world, corporation, the LLC, and stuff like that, they are geared towards making a profit and then private and giving it to basically how to get bonuses to their shareholders and stuff like that. For nonprofits, that's what it is for not-profit, and that's how we are able to maintain an exemption status as well. So again, IRS is always number one. And if you haven't already, always go to the IRS website for nonprofits. I always speak about public charities, 501c3. That's what all my knowledge lies in. Public charities. And if you haven't already, like I always say in my videos, they sent this to me a long time ago. I formed our nonprofit years ago. I'm not sure if they still send this out, but you can download it from the website. This is IRS Publication 4221-PC. I know what you're thinking. If a nonprofit is not owned, who the heck runs it, right? Of course, somebody runs it. As the IRS states, and this is my second point, your board of directors are responsible for shared governance, which is legally required as a public charity. So I always talk about board governance. Hopefully, I uh, put that somewhere. My specialty is board governance. That's what I went to school for, got my master's degree for, and they taught us that in school. But it is for in the shared interest of the public that the act in public interest, your board of directors, and they do the check and balances and everything. So this is someone has that strategically um, from an operation standpoint, come up with the bylaws, which is policy and how it runs and operates your nonprofit. And that's not to be shared with everybody. That's just for your board of directors. And also checks and balances. Say we come up with these programs when your executive director, your CEO reports basically to your board of directors what is going on. This is the report, what's going on. Finances, this is what I do with our board. We talk about finances first. Let me get that out the way. Finances, the programs, and everything. Get their input. Take some votes if necessary. And then at the end or the beginning of the year, we do our board evaluation, and that is evaluation of the board and how everything was been operating. And I also what we do is they evaluate my performance as well. So, because I'm the executive director. But I will also say, if I haven't said this before, just make sure you're creating a legacy and trust. That's what you're doing. You're building trust. When you have a board of directors, this is somebody that these are people who should be trusted. I put that number one. Your board of directors should be people that you trust and everything. And I'll say this because people, I would say, kind of like my third point, something that you could do, I would say is not necessary because it's how that you are publicly displayed by the public and what you put out there for you. I would say don't put too much of yourself out there if you're operating a nonprofit as the CEO or the executive director because we're going to get tired of seeing you. Who you helping, what's going on. But some people add a founder's clause. Now, a lot of people do not talk about this. I have not seen a lot of videos on the founder's clause. They added in because people, and this is why I say people, your board of directors should be people you trust because it has happened. I've heard stories that people have stolen. I don't know how you can do stolen a nonprofit of themselves and reformed and took all the information. So they put in the founders clause in the bylaw. But if you do that, again, they kind of prevent that from anybody stealing. And I can understand that if you bring in new board members and rotate or whatever and stuff like that. Depends on how you do it. But if you do this, I would strongly suggest if you choose this as an option, have a succession plan and provide a great service and represent yourself well. Provide a good professional service or whatever, because what the public looks at your organization and what you and output and input anything, you want to make sure that is represented well. That way, I guess people, I've never been under that, but people will not steal a nonprofit. I don't know, but it happens. But make sure again that comes with the policy. The bylaws actually lays out, it's basically the handbook for the nonprofit and everything. So those are two and a half things that again get into the mindset. The nonprofit is not owned. The board of directors are responsible as a shared governance because it's legally required. Number one, the IRS says so. That's the exemption requirements as so. And if you are unfamiliar with different um, how different businesses operates, go back, do a Google search, look at nonprofit, look at LLCs, look at corporations, look at that different state because everything except for a nonprofit has profit. Nonprofit is nonprofit. That is what it is. But hopefully you learned something new. And if you have any questions or concerns, definitely email me. Please email me info@lisasbusiness.com. And if you are starting a 501c3 public charity and you need some assistance, I am accepting new clients. Get with me if you need be. I do cost. There is a fee for the service. There are some free information and some templates and everything that you can download. Be sure to go back to some of my videos. Hopefully I post them somewhere on board governance and everything so you can operate your nonprofit right and be in compliance with the IRS because we don't want to mess with them, okay?